He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
I'd normally get there just after 6:30 in the morning. And I think it would be around 9 in the morning is when I would normally go up to the conferencing room. I can't actually recall what time of the morning what time he came through.
Bronwyn Pretorius is working at an upmarket hotel in Tauranga, a fast-growing mid-sized city on the east coast of the North Island in Aotearoa.
What I do remember is that when he came into reception, he had a rucksack with him, and he just said that he wanted to speak to the Prime Minister. He had a bomb with him.
Yeah, a bomb.
Police have been going through evacuating a number of the shops and buildings. The entire block of Devonport Road down through to the Strand has been evacuated.
It's 2005. The doco I'd been working on about this doomsday cult in Tiano had come out the year before. It had covered the deaths of Giannis and Suzanne's mum, Sharon. No criminal charges had been filed, but things at the lodge are in turmoil.
Good evening. Police say they have established communication with a man holed up in a Tauranga hotel claiming to have a bomb.
And here's something you won't have heard. The man with the rucksack in Bronwyn's hotel, the man claiming to have a bomb, was one of Aiping's students. Kia ora, I'm Phil Vine from RNZ, and this is The Lodge, the fall and rise of a wellness cult, a podcast about healing, about the power of belief and its lasting effects on the believers and the believed.
So obviously through the accent you can hear I'm from South Africa. So we moved to New Zealand in 2003. September 11, 2003 is when we actually landed in New Zealand.
2 years later, almost to the day, Bronwyn Pretorius is working on the reception desk at the Devonport Towers Hotel. Enter one quiet man with an Eastern European accent saying he has a bomb in his luggage.
He didn't come across as scary, he didn't frighten me at all. And I think maybe that's why I wasn't scared, because he had a very calm nature about him.
He claims to be carrying explosives. He's asking to speak to the Prime Minister, and Bronwyn has a major incident on her hands.
So I rung up to the office, and Debbie, the owner of the hotel, she was working in the office. She came down to the reception and she asked me to take him up to the conference room.
What's going through your mind at this point? I mean,
to be honest, I didn't, it's only afterwards when people asked me about it that I think I really then just sat back and really thought about it. I just took him up to the conference room and then just sat with him in the room, not knowing at all what was happening downstairs. And then I just sat and spoke with him.
Carload of armed defenders squad police entered the Devonport Hotel, which is the most exclusive hotel in Tauranga.
I didn't know that Debbie had called the bomb squad and the bomb squad were on their way. I had no idea that was all happening, because obviously they got the hotel evacuated because the hotel also had apartments. And in one of the apartments, there was a couple who had their son who had disabilities. So when they came down, by mistake, they came into the conference room.
Oh my gosh.
And they opened the door and they said to me, they've been told to evacuate the building because there's a crazy man in the hotel. So I just said to them very calmly, that's okay, just head on down to the reception area. And he didn't do anything. And, we just carried on talking.
What did you talk about, Bronwyn? What did the two of you talk about?
I was just asking him where he was staying, which I found out was at a backpackers. I think he was staying at a backpackers down the Mount.
Mount Maunganui, a coastal suburb of the city.
So that information led the police to go to the backpackers. I asked him what he was doing, why he was doing this. and he said that he was wanting to go back home.
Whether the man meant Eastern Europe or somewhere closer, like a certain lodge in Tiano, isn't clear. The bomber told Bronwyn that he'd been having trouble with immigration. He was quoted by the Bay of Plenty Times as saying, "I don't care if I die, so long as people get to hear my story."
I don't even know how long I was in the room with him for. It felt like ages, but I don't think it was too long.
News reports say it was about an hour.
I didn't realise that the whole of Devonport Road and I think Grey Street was evacuated as well, because they weren't too sure if it was a bomb, how big the bomb would be. And then the telephone rang. The conference room had a telephone. The telephone rang, and I asked him if I could answer it, and he was like, yep. So I said to him, they want me to go downstairs to the reception. Is that okay? And he said, yep, that's fine. When I opened the conference room doors to go out, the bomb squad were lined up along the wall.
They were there with the AOS, the Armed Offenders Squad.
Fully clad in their black clothing with their guns. So that gave me a fright, because I didn't expect that. They led me back down to the reception area. They closed the door straight away. They didn't go in. Led me down to the reception area, and then the police took me from there through to the offices so that I could be interrogated and ask questions and that.
Police had 3 city blocks fully evacuated. A siege that lasted 13 hours. Once the city was in darkness, the AOS moved in.
I think it was during the night where they threw tear gas or something through the window of the conference room before entering it, something to that effect. So, yeah, because I think it was much, much later that night or early hours of the morning when they got him out.
Arresting and detaining the suspect without serious injury. Police gave the all clear, let people return to their homes and businesses, adding a specific apology for the lady rushed out of the downtown hairdressers in the middle of her perm.
All rise.
The next day in court, reporters learned that the man with the backpack was Jacob Sullivan, also known as
Jacob Slevak, aged 57, appeared in Tauranga District Court this morning.
He's charged with burglary, threatening to kill or cause grievous bodily harm. But before he can be tried, Jacob Slevak is deported to Slovenia. In 2024, I'd heard a whisper linking this Tauranga bomb threat to Aiping and the lodge, and I wanted to see if it was true. I contacted Jacob Slevak's legal aid lawyer from 2005. She politely declined an interview. At first, the police said they were too busy to trawl through old files, then told me that the Tauranga bomber had no fixed abode on his file. I managed to speak with another government official, though, who talked on the condition of anonymity. They told me that Jacob Slevak, the man with the backpack, upset with immigration, trying to get an audience with Helen Clark, the Prime Minister, was one of Aiping's students at the Phenomena Academy in Tiano. A fact that never came up in court or any of the media coverage. It hasn't been reported on until now. Mercifully, his bag hadn't contained any explosives. I mean, imagine what would have happened, Bronwyn, if there actually had been a bomb in there. Have you stopped to consider that?
No. No. I haven't thought about it like that, no.
You were very brave and very calm, and everyone was lucky to have you in that situation.
Yeah. That's why I say I think maybe it's from coming from South Africa. Who knows? But he definitely didn't make me feel threatened. And I think that played probably a big part in it. And we only found out pretty much after all of this happened that I was actually pregnant at the time as well. I just found out a few days afterwards that I was pregnant. Wow. So it was all just quite surreal, really.
Why did Jacob Slevak cause that furore? Well, we don't know exactly, but it's very likely to have had something to do with his imminent deportation. Reporting at the Times suggested that the 57-year-old had staged the bomb scare to get a free ride back home. But Jacob Slevik was due to be deported anyway. Reports say his student visa had run out 2 months before in July, and as he had little money to his name, immigration was going to have to pay for the trip either way. It's also likely, though we can't be certain, that he wanted to challenge his deportation and protest what had gone on down at the lodge. The authorities had shut down Aiping's school for instructors, where he was studying.
And let energy release all your blockage.
Aiping had set up the Phenomena Academy in 2000 as a bona fide teaching institute with government accreditation for a 3-year diploma of life consultancy.
They've always been satisfied with us.
Sarah McCrum, the manager at the lodge, talking about the New Zealand Qualifications Authority back in 2004.
I think we have quite a good reputation actually for being very open with them. They always comment on that.
Cult insiders Suzanne and Eddie told me the Academy's teaching accreditation had been a way of getting Aiping's followers into the country on student visas. Aiping, suspecting that her wellness cult was at risk, made a last plea to the people of New Zealand to keep the Phenomena Academy open.
This is so advanced, so good things. Yeah, we will make them to understand us, to support us. I'm sure.
After the 2020 doco came out, the authorities took action. The NZQA removed Aiping's right to teach, and immigration went on to deport a dozen followers who'd arrived on student visas. Jacob Slevik, the Tauranga fake bomber, was one of them. Over more than 4 years, my source says he'd renewed his student visa multiple times. So back then, somewhat big-headedly perhaps after the doco, after the NZQA pulled the plug, I thought that was it. The Phenomena Academy, associated with 2 deaths, had been closed down. 12 of Aiping's followers had been sent out of the country. New converts were unable to get into Aotearoa as students. I was pretty sure that that would spell the end of this doomsday-turned-wellness cult. But how wrong was I?
Yeah, so I want to do the best for New Zealand and best for the New Zealand people. Yeah, I don't want to ruin New Zealand's law. I'm New Zealand, I want to stay New Zealand. Yeah.
Aiping would get her wish to remain in New Zealand. So how did she manage to stay when her followers were thrown out of the country? It's called the Golden Visa.
The Prime Minister and his Economic Growth Minister this afternoon revealed an overhaul of the Golden Visa scheme.
That's a long-standing clause in our immigration regulations. Basically, if you invest enough money in New Zealand, you get to stay. It's been in the news in 2025 because the amount used to be $15 million to get in. The government's just knocked it down to $5 million. When Aiping arrived in the late 90s, the threshold was $1 million. Invested for a minimum of 2 years. The wellness guru had paid $2.1 million for the lodge. That gave her a golden visa. But what could Aiping do in her clean green hideaway at the end of the world? Now she was banned from teaching her spiritual philosophy, life technology.
Takaro has over 1,000 hectares of land and some of the world's purest air, crystal clear waters, and pristine nature.
She lent into the high-end tourist business. $4,000 rooms, 10 hand massages, where
the energy is fantastic.
A luxury lodge with a difference, they called it. But the lodge was also acting as a kind of HQ. While Aiping stayed put, her followers and family took her philosophy out to market, starting up in new places, a kind of spiritual diaspora with a strong business imperative.
They're very clever, and how she's managed to get away with opening branches all over the world, I have no idea.
Annie Kossoff.
And where all this money comes from, except that you have to think, well, there must be so many rich, desperate people, who are willing to believe in this.
Rather than shut up shop, the cult at the lodge seems to have gone global. It shouldn't really have come as any surprise after what former follower Suzanne said in Ep 3.
I believe that it's a new way of life. I believe it's going to become society. It's definitely a global aim.
Aiping's philosophy, life technology, hatched in the cinema halls of Slovenia, percolated in a forest retreat in the wilds of New Zealand, was ready for the world stage. These branches, as Annie calls them, have been started up all over Europe and the States. You'll recall the first one, the Energy Bank.
It was in the East End of London in an up-and-coming area, which is very, very expensive. And it was the most extraordinary building. It was a whole block, ground floor of a whole block, with rooms that went on and on and on.
That was where Warwick got his energy treatment for HIV, Aiping's flagship operation.
A beautiful space, feng shuied up to the eyeballs.
Remember the Guardian journo, Nick Jordan, who called the Energy Bank an Enya song made of bricks and mortar?
A wraparound serenity that whiffs of New Age California. Continued attendance, I'm told, will bring me nothing but good.
According to that Guardian report, as early as 2002, Aiping was looking to expand internationally.
London is its only site to date, but there are plans to open in America, Switzerland, and Germany.
On the face of it, a lucrative business. Prices back then were the equivalent of 33 Kiwi dollars an hour for a group session, $1,200 for a one-on-one with an instructor. Manager Sarah McCrum called it
cheap. It's really, really cheap what we do here.
The bill for Warwick, for less than a year's treatment at the Energy Bank in London, ran to $75,000.
Those people say they're selling energy, but you don't need to buy it. It's there anyway.
Thomas, Warwick's sceptical flatmate in London, from Annie's Doco.
I personally think it's the emperor's new clothes. Western 21st century culture has very little in terms of spiritual and communal culture to offer to people who are either physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually in crisis.
Just before we get to all the other branches and the other countries, there's something that's bugging me. It's the whole money-making versus helping humanity question. Was this spiritual endeavour at the lodge set up to serve, to advance humankind, or was it simply about raking in the cashola? Of course, both answers might be true, or one motivation might have morphed into the other. That wiki page on Aiping's life technology is interesting on this question. It describes phenomenism, another word for the philosophy developed at the lodge, as a broad process that will actually take over the world.
Phenomenism is actually supposed to represent a new social order that, according to life technology teachers, will prevail after the collapse of capitalism.
A supersize ambition to be the last system standing after we've stopped climbing over each other to get rich. Is it good to accumulate money? I asked Aiping this for the doco back in 2004.
Depends on your ability. So if you have big vision and open-minded, you want to serve majority, and then you need lots of money to serve majority.
You need lots of money to serve the majority. Okay, money and enlightenment aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Though back then, Aiping did contend that the Phenomena Academy at the lodge was a charity.
Yes, it is the academy. It is a non-profit organization.
Do you take any money out of that?
All my money is invested for students. I don't have any penny in my pocket. Everything what we made, yes, invest for the students.
The Academy might be a non-profit, but Phenomena was registered in Aotearoa as a limited company. Aiping was the sole director. And there were a clutch of other family-owned companies in New Zealand at the time of the interview, 2004. Cybovision, Water New Zealand, 103 Perfectly, and Credit Info Limited.
They don't have business, they're just an empty company.
One of them owns this place. It's worth $3.5 million. That's not an empty business.
Yeah, this is bank owned. We have credit from the bank.
Aiping might well have had a mortgage on the lodge, but she wouldn't have got her permanent residency under the investor category if she hadn't brought at least $1 million into the country, presumably from her faith healing days in Slovenia and Croatia. Companies House, that UK government website, shows that in 2003, Aiping and her husband, Alexander Fulep, owned $516,000 worth of preferential shares in the Energy Bank in London. Sarah McCrum held $300,000 worth of preferential shares in the business. In 2003, the Energy Bank turned over $1.7 million. Doesn't sound much like the end of capitalism. I've been working on this with an investigative journalist from Croatia, Irina Divkovic. Irina's a newspaper editor and a senior financial journalist from Zagreb. That's her on the telly, talking about the 2016 Panama Papers. Nothing to do with Aiping Wong, by the way. I'm just establishing Irina's credentials. She's been following the guru's activities since way before Aiping came to New Zealand.
As we know, Aiping's previous treatment centres in Croatia and Slovenia in 1990s were followed by scandals and even a court case for endangering life in Slovenia.
You're hearing her written words from the mouth of our Croatian translator, Liliana. She explained to me how the guru originally arrived from China to Croatia and then met her husband.
Alexander Fulop met his wife Aiping Wong in Zagreb in 1989. She came from China with a delegation of companies where she dealt with insurance business. That's when they got together. They moved to Slovenia in 1990 when the Balkans War started, performing alternative activities there. The alternative activities of the couple went through company Wong Fu that combined their two names, Wong and Fulop. In 1997, Wong Fu achieved a turnover of 5 million kuna.
$1 million Kiwi dollars.
This enterprising Wong-Fulop duo has not been obvious about their own projects. They have been shadow figures for years, or rather co-owners of companies and organizations that operate in the former Yugoslavia, Europe, from the USA via London to New Zealand.
Alexander Fulep reportedly became interested in the earning potential from his future wife's healing abilities after she cured members of his family. He told the New Zealand Herald in 2002 that his cousin, a World War II veteran, used to take half an hour to get down the stairs of his apartment. Apparently, after Aiping's treatment, Alexander Fulep was quoted as saying his cousin ran to the grocer's shop.
About the energy business, Alexander Fulop was quoted as saying, I made it all up. It's all my idea. In the mid-90s, it was clear that Aiping made a fortune from alternative treatments. A testimony of this is the purchase of a luxury villa in Scottsdale, Arizona, with 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms and a huge swimming pool surrounded by palm trees. Her name is signed on the real estate document.
Irina says they also have luxury properties in Florida and across Croatia.
So, Phil, I'm going to send you a list of companies and countries where Aiping Wong and her family have been operating.
She provided me with the details of 37 companies and organisations around the globe in 10 different countries, from the Energy Bank in the UK to the US.
Hidden Potential, North Park Drive, Lafayette, Colorado.
Italy to Germany.
Energy Clinic at the Hotel Atlantic, Kempinski, Hamburg.
To Serbia and Montenegro, as well as Aiping's old stomping grounds of Croatia and Slovenia.
Spirala, Mariborska 86, Celje. Life Edukacija, Ljubljana.
Some of them have since folded, others are still operating out of high-end hotels. And then there's a whole nother category, 10 organisations set up to help disabled people. More on those controversial enterprises soon. Now, I do want to drop a large proviso at this point. A disclaimer, possibly a get-out-of-jail-free card. All of this information comes from Irina's work, my research, and interviews with experts and ex-followers, but I've had nothing so far from Aiping's side of things. Not since 2004. I've tried many people, many times, but hit a concerted brick wall. As I record this, no one, not Aiping, nor her family, or current followers will agree to an interview. We'll keep trying, of course. If you're listening, it's already Ep 5, guys, though there's still time. phil.vine@rnz.co.nz. So, who's been running all these places overseas? It looks like a very tight circle of trusted followers and Aiping's family. The names of officers and shareholders in these companies and organisations keep coming up again and again. Finding more connections than my little brain could comfortably handle, I had to make like Carrie from the show Homeland. I've got to that stage where I can't keep all of the characters in my head. So I went out and I bought me a whiteboard. And yeah, I guess I've become one of those people that puts people's photos on whiteboards and makes connections between them. Okay, I'm going to try and keep this simple. Think of it like a family tree. And don't worry, it's not a big family. This family tree surrounded by a circle of devoted followers. And Irina, the Croatian journalist, has been helping me with these details. At the top of the whiteboard is Aiping Wong and her husband Alexander Fulep, also known as Sasa or Sasha.
Alexander Fulep is now dead.
Okay, right. Sorry for your loss, Aiping and family.
He died in April 2021. His death certificate shows he is buried in Mirogoj City Cemetery in Zagreb.
Below Aiping and her husband, the late Alexander Fulep, the next generation, Aiping's daughter. She got together with a Croatian man. He's been involved in business with Aiping and Alexander from the early days. They got married in Las Vegas.
According to the wedding certificate from Clark County, that was July 2000.
We're just going to call them Aiping's daughter and Aiping's son-in-law.
They also had 2 children together, both born in New Zealand. One at the lodge, one in Invercargill.
In the early 2000s, Aiping's daughter left the lodge in New Zealand with her 2 children. They headed to China before settling in Switzerland, where a branch of the Phenomena Academy called the Energy Clinic had already been set up. There's the Energy Clinic in Lausanne. In a New Zealand Herald article from June 2002, the reporter said when she visited the lodge, Aiping and her daughter were away in Switzerland. The Swiss official Gazette of Commerce names Aiping's daughter as the CEO of an energy clinic based in Lausanne in 2009. While Aiping's daughter was in Switzerland with the kids, her partner, Aiping's son-in-law, also left New Zealand. He returned to Croatia. Their marriage would end, but he would remain close to his ex-mother-in-law, in a business sense at least. He's responsible for more than a dozen of the branches set up in Europe. They're called energy clinics. His online bio states that he runs 14 of them. He also runs a training centre to staff the clinics, and that's where I tried to ring him. Hello?
Hello. Hi.
Hi. I was after if he's around. Aiping's former son-in-law wasn't there. I did get a number for him, though, which I tried.
Osoba koju ste nazvali trenutno ne može odgovoriti na vaš poziv.
And tried.
The person you have called is unable to answer call at the moment.
To no avail.
Please try again or call back later.
Halfway through this investigation, I did wonder how involved Aiping was with these new branches overseas. I mean, she must be in her 70s by now. Maybe she's hung up her energy boots. Then I found a magazine article from 2017.
Wisdom of the Traveller. how Chinese healing methods are helping to keep travelers on the move.
It was an in-house publication of the super posh Kempinski chain of hotels in Germany. It's about an energy clinic based inside their hotel in Hamburg. And there, front and centre of the 4-page spread, a Chinese woman, short hair, feathered fringe and a turtleneck. The piece spoke of a chain of these energy clinics in Europe under the parent company Eden Phenomena and the founder, Aiping Wong, the guru from the lodge. She's quoted as saying,
"It doesn't take a brilliant physician to treat an illness. On the other hand, keeping people healthy requires a real master."
Yep, that's the same chain of energy clinics that her ex-son-in-law's been keeping warm.
Eden Phenomena's treatments integrate techniques that date back over 5,000 years and are based on highly scientific principles of Chinese medicine.
Cult watcher Anke Richter, originally from Germany. She was quite taken aback by the magazine article about Aiping Wong.
I actually can't believe that I've seen this woman's work or this outfit's work being advertised in a magazine from Kempinski hotels in Germany. I mean, this is like one of the leading top-notch chain of hotels. They're potentially opening the door for people like the woman you just spoke about, who would fall into the hands of someone who could exploit them, misdiagnose them in the worst possible way. It's absolutely appalling.
The Hamburg Energy Clinic at the Hotel Kempinski has a big circle around it on my whiteboard for other reasons. It's a bit of a hub. Aiping's daughter taught natural Chinese medicine there in 2009, and connected to that hotel are 2 more names to add to the family tree. Gwen, listed as the co-founder of the Energy Clinic in Hamburg, former shareholder in the Energy Bank. Her Facebook handle is Phenomena Gwen. Online friends include Aiping Wong and lots of other followers and family, which figures, because she's the mother of Aiping's daughter's new partner. Keeping up? Swap out the old son-in-law for the new son-in-law, and his mother joins the wider whānau. Everything seems to stay within the business or within the organisation. Well, not everything perhaps, but it certainly looks as if it's quite a closed-off ecosystem. Most of the European energy clinics seem to be operated by family. Aiping's daughter or ex-son-in-law, or the mother of Aiping's new son-in-law, Gwen. Some are run by alumni of the Phenomena Academy, Aiping's followers from the lodge in Te Anau. More names and faces on the whiteboard that I won't confuse you with. But how is this global operation coordinated? Well, helpfully, a High Court case in New Zealand offers some insight. I was pretty stoked when I came across it.
Hearing 23 February 2016. Counsel, DA Webb and RAK for the applicants and C. Patterson for the second respondent.
That year, 3 women from the Takaro Lodge went to court to challenge Immigration New Zealand's decision to deny them residency. The Takaro 3, my designation, were seeking to prove that they were in full-time employment at the lodge. They made an application under the skilled migrant category, a visa for people whose talents are in hot demand. They claim to be
life consultants.
One of the statements of the court said,
all the clients are actually members of this rejuvenation group who have effectively bought into the rejuvenation franchise.
Franchises, the right or licence granted to an individual or group to market goods and services in a particular territory.
Each one is now running their own business either in Europe or the United States.
Maybe they're owner-operated, like McDonald's, only healthier. Or not. According to the court documents, these life consultants conducted rejuvenation consultations with clients at $500 New Zealand dollars an hour. Nice work if you can get it. Their claim said they would do at least 4 or 5 a day. let's see, conservatively speaking, that's 4 clients times $500 times 3 consultants times 5 days, $30,000 a week, 1.56 million New Zealand dollars a year. A letter from the accountant, Gavin Short, confirmed that
large profits were being generated.
No kidding, Gav. FYI, the applicants lost their case. The Tauranga 3 weren't given skilled worker status. For balance, their lawyers said, we are of the view, yet again, that Immigration New Zealand has produced a biased opinion against our client. So besides the money versus humanity question, there's another thing that's batting around in my brain. At these franchises, these energy clinics and banks, rejuvenation centres and whatever else they're called, are there trained energy instructors there offering up health advice to people who might have serious diseases, telling them they can be healed without medicine? Because that'd be a bit of a worry, considering the sad and disturbing history of the lodge. Suzanne's mum, Sharon.
She was my best friend in the whole world, and yeah, I lost her.
And Giannis, with the tumour on his face.
If Aiping Wang would have any power, my brother would be alive today.
The thing they had in common, according to their families anyway, was an unwavering belief in Aiping's ability to cure serious diseases like cancer.
And even if Ms. Aiping Wang presents herself like not having given that advice, which could be true, it seems that overall the way she conducts herself or how this whole group is run, that there is a certain belief system that people think they need to stick with what they've signed up for.
And there are certainly some indications from the energy clinics and the branches in Europe that those boundaries are being blurred, that instructors there are recommending energy healing as a real alternative to conventional medicine for serious diseases. Aiping's son-in-law, running 14 energy clinics, says they've opened a medical spa, a place where health, beauty and wellness meet medical science and expertise. In the same article, he talks about applying natural treatments, products and methods of relaxation and healing as much as possible, avoiding any aggressive methods. Then there's the Life Centre in Slovenia, run by a family of Aiping's followers, with some worrisome advertising. In addition to energy mind expansion and energy power charge, they offer something called energy body repair.
A specialised programme designed for people wishing to resolve a specific health challenge.
And they talk about a
disturbed energy state affecting functioning of internal organs and energy imbalance, causing negative behaviour, toxic chemistry, which eventually manifests itself as physical pain, chronic or very serious illnesses.
With the suggestion that changing your energy state can fix these serious illnesses, maybe this wellness cult hasn't completely parted company with the idea of energy-based miracle cures. The healing without medicine bit is one of the key questions I like answered by Aiping, Sarah McCrum, anyone from the family really. So remember earlier how I mentioned a list of the family's companies and organisations from Irina, the Croatian journalist.
10
organisations were involved with the disabled community, some working with children. That's proven to be one of the most controversial aspects of the story.
World Education Foundation for the Disabled Limited, Lives for Living Trust Limited, London, United Kingdom.
And guess who was the director of both of those London operations? Sarah McCrum, who used to be the manager at the lodge and the Energy Bank. It would become a wildly contentious business venture. I'm relying now on court documents to help me flesh this out for you. That 2016 immigration court case of the Tauranga 3 that I referred to earlier, well, an Immigration New Zealand report quoted in court stated that
a number of articles have been located that raise concerns about the history of the lodge and people who are associated with the lodge and their businesses throughout Europe.
And the evidence presented by Immigration New Zealand under the subtitle Open Source Information, it includes a pretty damning watchdog report about this children's charity, Life for Living. A Holford Watch online article from February 2008, cited in the court documents, says,
"It now looks as if vulnerable young people and their families are invited to accept treatment and support from an organisation that is staffed by people who believe their energy therapy can treat and mitigate cancer, AIDS, cerebral palsy, and a variety of chronic or terminal illnesses, as well as disabilities."
Holford Watch is an online blog set up to monitor the activities of wellness gurus. The High Court transcript says,
The article and associated responses repeat concerns related to Lives for Living and the Energy Bank and their supposed money-making scams.
And the first comment on the Holford Watch article, username Susie Quattro, reads,
I wish I'd read this before my vulnerable child and others had been taken to China on a so-called healing trip. All the above we'd just worked out for ourselves, but rather late. These people are dangerous.
Life for Living was closed down in 2010, same time as the Energy Bank. The adverse publicity in the UK can't have helped. For Balance, the Takaro 3's lawyers said there seems to be a concerted and significant effort to try to find negative information on this company. Another comment from the Holford Watch article reminded me of something we really need to resolve. Maxine Love talked about Warwick's treatment for HIV at the Energy Bank. It read,
Poor Warwick, does anyone know if he's still with us?
Good question. And we'll get round to it, I promise. If you were still pondering that whole money versus humanity question, take a look at what Sarah McCrum's doing now. Aiping's chief explainer, the sorcerer's apprentice, has made the leap to full-blown guru. She's the author of a book entitled Love Money, Money Loves You. And it's all about, well, best if she explains.
And we are going to open up to the energy of money.
She's in the biz of manifesting wealth using energy.
This is a very beautiful energy. It's present inside you already and all around you. So allow yourself to be touched by the energy of money.
That's quite surreal. Ep 5 of an 8-episode podcast about a wellness cult. Coming up,
loved the session. Full body goosebumps.
we delve into the darker side of the wellness industry.
Thanks for coming.
Apple cider vinegar guru.
Belle Gibson.
This very ordinary individual was able to develop trust and a sense of expertise and authority and influence that rivaled medical professionals.
People, in order to continue growing their business or gaining financially, are interested in doing deceptive practices. I just find that to be awful.
Once I was in there, I didn't feel like I had a lot of options to get out of it.
Remember Suzanne, avid devotee turned runaway cult follower?
The cult isn't necessarily a negative thing. My brain needed to be washed.
Who lost her mother and her family fortune. Would you rule out going back and living at Takaro Lodge and being her follower again?
Would I rule that out? No, I definitely wouldn't rule that out.
That's up next in Ep 6 of The Lodge. And hey, if anyone out there has some information about this wellness cult and its business activities, whether you're a follower, an ex-follower, or someone who knows someone who is, please get in touch. phil.vine@rnz.co.nz. Thanks for listening. Special thanks to our guests, Croatian journalist Irina Divkovic and translator Liliana Jovovic, as well as cult watcher Anka Richter. Big ups to our marvellous RNZ engineers, Ben Pearce, Rangi Powick and Jeremy Ansell. Thanks to my producery colleagues, Liz Garton, William Ray and Justin Gregory. Cheers to Amrita Marks for the stunning tile visuals, Luke Bottle and Robert Stewart and our legal team. my executive editor, Tim Watkin, and the person that makes everything happen, Brianna Uritich-Gregg. Make sure you're following The Lodge wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. You can read more about this mind-boggling wellness cult and see photos of all the characters involved on the RNZ website. Links in the show notes. Shout out to Nick DeFries, Beatnik, for his music.